you're thinking about taking a break from that job search you've been doing just for the summer, you're not alone. A lot of job seekers think that that's a great time to take a break. But I'm going to tell you, you shouldn't be doing that because today we're going to shoot down 3 myths about job search in the summer that you should be aware of. Hi, I'm Shelley Piedmont, a former recruiter turned career coach, and I want you to thrive and not just survive your job. Okay, myth one is that there's no hiring that happens in the summertime because everyone is on vacation. Okay, so I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. What I did was I looked up the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics for 2024 to see the hiring trends. I looked at January through March and then June through August. And here's what I found. On average, in January through March, the hiring was on average 5.57 million people in the US per month. So in the winter and the spring, what we usually think of as the biggest hiring seasons. Guess what? When I looked at June through August, that ended up being 5.27 million jobs that were being hired for during those months on average. That's only a 6% difference. Okay? It's not like it's half. It's not like it's 25% off. It was only 6%. That means that hiring is happening in the summertime. And I can tell you, as someone who used to recruit, guess what? In the summertime, I took a 1-week vacation. So 11 weeks out of the summer, I was working. And I was working to fill openings. Because guess what? Sometimes those openings hadn't been filled from the spring. Sometimes we had turnover. Sometimes there was a new project and we needed people for that. Or maybe we signed a new client and therefore we needed people to, work with that client. There's lots of reasons why there may be hiring happening in the summertime. Okay? And that was true of all of my colleagues who were recruiters. They didn't stop because it was summer. They were just as busy. And you know what another positive was for hiring in the summer? Because it might have been a little slower business-wise, it also meant we could get training in. Those new hires, it wasn't so much pressure on them. There was a little bit more time. So when we would be busier in the fall, they would be ready. And I know a lot of organizations think that way too. Now, sure, there are some companies, some industries where there is a lull in the summertime, but that's not across the board. So please don't think that summer is not where there's any hiring. As I showed you, there's plenty of hiring that goes on in the summer. If you like this content, I always appreciate hitting that like button and go ahead and subscribe to my channel. It really helps. Myth number 2 is I can't network in the summertime because everyone is at the beach. Really? Really? Everyone is at the beach all summer long? Okay. Now, I understand people take vacations, right? And, but most professionals will take a week or maybe 2. But you know what? They're not going away for 3 months, really. What happens is that when you actually think about it, summer can be a great time for networking. Yes, maybe it's going to take a little while for someone to get back to you. But guess what? LinkedIn is open 24/7. And people do check their emails. It's not a good habit, but they do check their emails while they're on vacation. So it's still an opportunity for you to get in touch with people. One other thing to think about is because lots of people are taking the summer off from their job search, then you might have a better shot of actually talking to people. They're not getting the barrage of emails that they might get in the spring or the fall. So if you can, make an interesting message for them that, intrigues them, then they're likely to open that because they just don't have as much other people doing the same thing, wanting their time. And here's a secret. When others are sitting out their job search for the summer and you continue to network, you stand out. And the people that stand out, who are noticed, who can talk about their value, those are the ones that get the opportunities. So it's important. Network, even in the summertime. It can be your secret weapon. Myth number 3 is that I need to take time off in the summertime because I must recharge. Now, I understand. You might have been, on overdrive in the springtime and you still haven't found a job. And you might feel a little bit dispirited, tired, just exhausted from the process. And you're thinking, oh, I could just use a break. The kids are off in the summertime. No one's around. So it won't be a big deal if I take the summer off and I'll just recharge. Now, I will tell any job seeker, the most important thing is for you to take care of yourself. A job search can be grueling, and your health, both mental and physical, is very important. So I am all for job seekers who know when it's a little tough for them to pull back. But summertime is not the time to actually stop. The thing about a job search is it is a lot of momentum that pushes you forward. So every application you do, every networking call you make, every interview you go on, that keeps you moving forward. You get better and better. And that momentum will ultimately get you to your goal, which is a job where you can thrive. But it is like going to the gym where you have to put in your reps. And if you've been working out consistently, doing that strength training, and then you stop, and 3 months later you decide, okay, I'm going to start again. You go to the gym. Guess what? You're not lifting the weight that you did 3 months ago. That's not happening. And sometimes you actually go back to where you started. That's momentum. That momentum carries you. So what I would suggest, if you need to have a little bit more time for yourself, or because it's beautiful outside and you've been inside all year and you want to enjoy the outside, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I would suggest you do instead of giving up everything is just to roll back a little bit. So how many applications you've been putting in, have that and be more selective. If you've been going on 4, networking coffees a week, roll that back to 2. You can do that. You get more time for yourself, but you're still making progress on your job search. And that momentum is important because it keeps you in the game. And that is important to your success, because if you are not job searching, I'm sorry, you are not going to get a job, which is your ultimate goal. So here's what I want you to remember. That summertime can be a good time to do your job search. Think about it. If you are doing your job search, but a lot of people are not because they're choosing to stop, you're in a better position in a competitive market. There's just going to be fewer applicants. Now, yes, in summertime, it may be a little slower. The interview process may take a little longer, or it just may be, more days until you get a response back. Anticipate that. But even if you are feeling a little burnt out by your job search, don't give it up altogether. Spend more time on those activities that are going to give you the highest return on investment, because hiring does happen in the summertime, like it happens in December. Another myth that nothing happens in that month. And I'm raising my hand because I was hired in December. So I know personally that's nonsense. Same thing for summer. Hiring happens. So stay in the game and you will be ahead of your competition. What questions do you have about summer hiring? I'd like to hear from you. Drop them in the comments.